Good morning and welcome to PartnerOps Partner. Now, for this episode, I'm trying something different. I'm doing a video recording because I hear that sometimes people like that. So if you are inclined, you can go over to YouTube and you can find me on there. I'll drop a link probably in the description. Now, I'm wondering, can you hear the plane flying overhead? I have a nice mic. You can see it. Can't control those noises. I'm not great at that. Welcome to season 2, episode 2, week 1. That's right. This week I'm starting my new job. And as I said last week with the first episode, the goal this year, at least this season, I should say, is going to be to talk about these first 90 days and maybe beyond. We'll see how this goes in terms of, how much I enjoy it. But to get started, I want to start with this 90-day plan summary. I am reading through a book by Michael Watkins, The First 90 Days. And if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, you get to see me hold the book up. If not, you didn't. You're also getting my morning here on Labor Day, because when you just squeeze this stuff in when you can, and you're seeing ADHD. I'm so distractible, like by image quality, and I'm seeing the stuff in my background. I'm like, anyways, this first 90 days is critical, I think, to the success of any company. And I've got a habit of like running in and wanting to run really quickly. So what's coming right now with the podcast, I'm going to be doing weekly updates as I get seated in my role. These will not be specific to the company. That's something I want to be really clear about. Like, this is not going to be I'm not going to talk a whole lot about anything that I feel like is proprietary or protected information around the operations. That's one of the caveats of working in operations is you really want to talk about some of your projects, but you have to be careful about the forms in which you do that because you could be leaking competitive information. So for my employer who might listen to this and all the other people, I'm going to be really sensitive to what is and is not protected information. Now, outside of that, I am also going to be talking extensively about my attitude and my approach and my goals for this time. I think that's all totally fair on the table. That's intuitive and that's internal. And then I'll still talk about partner operations, like why the first 90 days are important to partner operations, what I hope to find in these first 90 days and accomplish. So every week we'll talk about how did last week go? How are things going this week? It's going to be kind of weird if I do midweek updates, which is my goal. I might shift that to early week updates. We'll see, but it could be a blend week over week. So if you find it interesting, I'd encourage you to stay kind of in the loop. Now, this week is my first week. So I do want to talk about first week goals. Now, this book here, it doesn't get that detailed on like your first night. It's dense. If you see online, if you're watching, this is a dense book. There's a lot of content, and actually it comes at you pretty quick. I like to read books like this so I can kind of chew over the material. Other people like to listen to it. Maybe you do a little bit of both. There are questions in every chapter. I am engaging with those a little bit, mostly looking for the different nuggets to challenge my assumptions. Now, for this first week in the new role, I'll start tomorrow. That is Tuesday. I'm recording on Monday. First week is connection. I want to connect with my new manager. I want to talk to her a little bit, get some sense of, where are we at with different things and start to get to know her a little better and how she works and how she receives information and really what she's looking for, from her perspective over these next 90 days. And then I also want to start to get to know my team. I'm on a team of 7 or 8 people, all program managers. So it's a chance to build those bridges and set those meetings up and start to get integrated kind of into their rhythms. What do they normally do? What's a week look like? What are the recurring meetings? What are the different OKRs or expectations? How do I start to map those out and get a plug for those? But then otherwise, like company systems, I want to connect into the company systems, get my laptop set up, make sure I have access to stuff, start getting my work process set up against my calendar, my workflow tools, all the things I'm going to need to really start keeping up with notes for what I want to learn. And that comes into the second point. What's the second goal for me this week? It's to lean in. They do have a hiring and onboarding process that so far is pretty nice. I got emails last week. Setting up my laptop was easy peasy. Email with clear directions on that. When to turn it on, when to click in, don't click into apps, things like that, all documented out. And then Thursday, because the company was closed Friday through Monday, I got an email saying, hey, here's your schedule for your first day. Here's when we hope to see you online. Here's the different things we're going to cover that day as a part of your onboarding cohort. That's right. I have a cohort. So I'll be leaning into those connections as well. Who's in the cohort? Where did they come from? What's our, program going to look like? On Monday, it's a pretty, I'll say full, right? For a new hire, it's a pretty full day. They've got several hours of, mandatory trainings and onboardings. And so for me, mentally, that's hard. One, with the ADHD, I do like to run. And by the way, I don't know if this is TMI or not. I'm unmedicated in this world. I'm working on that to see. I mean, I'm 41. I've got a lot of coping mechanisms at this point that have gotten me to where I'm at with it, but understanding it and how it impacts me and the way my brain works and the way I work and things like that, I do see the potential value, I think, of finding some quote normalcy. And that's a whole nother debate. I don't want to get into the podcast. Well, you don't want to be normal. You're not normal, whatever. But I get it. And everybody's a little different. So I'll say that. It impacts everybody a little bit differently. And for me, I've got coping mechanisms. I can be very effective even when dealing with those coping mechanisms, but I am looking forward to the potential that what a lot of other people take for granted might not be so hard. So all that said, this week is about leaning in. You see, I like to run. I want to get in. I want to look for places to make change. I have been in roles in partner operations in particular, and I think other people can relate to this, where the impact, right? It's partnerships in general. You need to make impact. You're there to be impactful. And if you don't make impact, you can get cut. I've been in jobs where it's a project, not a job. Some of the best advice I got early on a few years ago when I was looking to take in a role. I talked to my friend Mary View, and her advice was make sure they have a job and not just a project. And I've missed that gap a couple of times. So I typically want to run and I want to start to make impact, start to make change, build out the roadmap, go request stuff, update Salesforce. Like there's a lot of little things. And if you work in Salesforce administration, let's frankly, any system administration, if you've got any background in system administration, and if you learn Salesforce, you can learn most others. There's small ways that you can improve workflow with different in-system tools and things. And my tendency is to run at those things to start to show value. The problem is they become a distraction, and they become a distraction from the larger picture of what you might be facing. They may set the precedent that this is what you will always do, the tedious, small change, and you get yourself stuck in that operational role. And they could also distract you from the learning you need to do as a new hire. So as I read this book, The First 90 Days, one of the takeaways for me is slow down, ask more questions, and resist the urge to go. That can become a coping mechanism for people that are striving to move into leadership. And this book, by the way, is written from a leadership perspective. It assumes that you are moving into a leadership type of role, which I like. That forces me to elevate the mindset a little bit because I do believe that matches the role that I'm going to be in. Yeah, so week one for me is going to be all about leaning in and learning. And that's probably going to be the first few weeks. I mean, I think the first 90 days is really about building that strategy out, bringing all of my assumptions in, right? All the things that I know about the industry and technology and partner operations, and then starting to level those out with what's happening in the org, trying not to run over people that have been here before. I need to understand the systems and the tools and the processes and project management and communication styles. Like there's just so much learning that I need to do before I can really start to contribute effectively. Otherwise, it's just me coming in with my style, my thoughts, my systems, my ideas, and running those in when there's people that have clearly been doing this before. So that's one of my big takeaways. Week one, slow down, ask questions, lean into the process that they have defined for onboarding, as well as working with my manager on what the path to impact looks like for me. So here's the other side of onboarding programs. A lot of times, I'll say a lot, in my experience, caveat it that way, learning is really specifically tailored to sales. Enablement's a challenge, right? And my friend Jesse would tell you about this. Enablement is often overlooked, the value of enablement. Good enablement is what enables software companies to grow rapidly without having to hire a bunch of people. If you don't have good enablement for your users, your admins, your internal, you can't do that. You have to hire people who know things, and those people have to always know those things. So good enablement is broader than just your sales, but that's where a lot of it lives. So I'm interested to see, one, is the onboarding program very generic for all, like here's the new hire onboarding program, and then for this role, is there a plan? And there's probably not, to be totally honest. They've already got a lot in place they need to run. And my manager probably has a lot of thoughts in her brain. She's like, seems like a real smart person so far. So I figure there is some planning that she has done, some thought process out there for getting the role integrated in projects that I need to pick up and start moving forward or take over. I expect all of that there. So I'm trying to give myself room just to piece out kind of what's available, and then work into that rhythm to drive my own pieces as I get seated. I just think it's a delicate balance. I think that I could run in, try to make a big splash, and make a big mess. And so I really want to avoid that. A lot of potential for this role, in my opinion. I'm really hopeful and excited about what I could get to do over the next 2 to 3 years here in this role. And I think it all starts tomorrow. Well, clearly it all starts tomorrow. It's my first day. But the tone of how I go about doing that and how I impact change, man, that kicks off from day one. So that's what I'm thinking about this week. I'll have a conversation with my good friend Adam on this book. He and I are kind of book clubbing it a little bit right now as he also navigates kind of getting back into full-time work. And we'll be sharing ideas and thoughts. So you're going to be talking about him and our conversations. Please, subscribe if you're not already. Let me know what you want to hear about in these first 90 days. Otherwise, I look forward to talking to you next week. Good luck partnering.